The greatest disciple maker said, number 113. Welcome back. Today, we'll be looking at the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke to align ourselves more closely with Jesus' definition of discipleship. So let's get started. Matthew 16 verses 24 to 26, Mark 8 verses 34 to 37, Luke 9 verses 23 to 25. Then Jesus called the crowd to him along with his disciples, and he said to all of them, "If anyone wants to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake and for the gospel will save it. What will it profit a man if he gains the whole world, yet loses or forfeit his soul, his very self? For what can a man give in exchange for his soul?" My thoughts. We ought to notice that Jesus is not only talking to his disciples, but to the crowd as well. He says, "if anyone." In other words, this statement applies to all y'all. I've heard people try to make a distinction between a convert and a disciple. They would describe a convert as one who believes in Jesus and is going to heaven, but a disciple is one who is the special forces of the faith. They do the harder things that Jesus talks about, like denies themselves and takes up their cross. The mentality of intellectual assent and stating that they're on Team Jesus is not what he was looking for. He was looking for people who are all in. Watering down his commands distorts the believer's identity and purpose. It reduces their identity to a shallow, passive state of the casual Christian. They are totally disconnected from the transformative, obedient lifestyle every disciple is called to. They failed the first step of entering the kingdom, repentance. And this misunderstanding of the true fellowship with the Master shrinks their purpose from an active mission to glorify God, make disciples, and advance his kingdom into a self-focused consumerism that has become the god of our time. This faulty thinking leaves the would-be followers empty and under the delusion of being saved, when in fact they are deceived by the father of lies. Jesus makes no distinction. A convert is a disciple, and a disciple is a convert. If anyone wishes to come after me, he must. My story. I was recently reading a book that talked about this very issue. In fact, it went into greater detail of how we have taken the idea of discipleship and dumbed it down into something that undermines Jesus' original intent. Of course, I believe in the sovereignty of God, so nothing can really undermine his intentions, despite our worst efforts. They expressed it this way: discipleship is not something the church bolts on. It should be baked into everything we do as the church. I really like that. Said another way, I once had a commander who coined the phrase, "Training is everything and everything is training." He was trying to convey the idea that everything we did as soldiers should lead to greater effectiveness as warfighters. I took that to heart and coined my own phrase as a disciple of Jesus. Everything is about following Jesus, and following Jesus is everything. And that, my friends, is what Jesus was communicating when it comes to being his disciple. You may ask, where's the grace in all of this? The grace is found in the fact that people actually decide to follow Jesus as his disciples. It is a gift of God. They reject the standards set by the world and have a mindset to please the one they call their king. When you see a person like that, you see a person who has had the grace of God lavished on them. They're not perfect, but their heart has been surrendered to the great disciple maker. Our action plan. Now it's time for application. Here's some ideas. Ask those you're mentoring, what is a disciple of Jesus? Compare and contrast the cultural definition of discipleship with Jesus' definition of discipleship. Start discipling people the way Jesus discipled people. So let's not overcomplicate it. Jesus made it clear. Following him means surrender, obedience, and daily devotion. Discipleship isn't optional or elite. It's the normal Christian life for anyone who truly wants to come after him.